Hi, I'm Sarah. I grew up in South India in a traditional conservative home where, like most Indians, we did not discuss topics like sexually transmitted diseases. 10 years after I was born, India's first case of HIV/AIDS was discovered in my hometown of Chennai. India's socio-economic status, traditional social structure, views on sex and sexuality, and a huge population of marginalized people make it extremely vulnerable to the HIV/AIDS epidemic. In fact, the epidemic has become one of the most serious challenges faced by the country since independence. India has an estimated 5.1 million people living with HIV/AIDS, the second highest number of people living with HIV/AIDS in the world. But most of the people are afraid to even talk about it, and knowledge about HIV is scant and incomplete. In fact, a recent study showed that 25% of the population has never even heard of the disease. OM India has begun its work among AIDS victims in Dharmapuri district in the state of Tamil Nadu. The incidence of AIDS here is very high and the response is far from adequate. There is a higher incidence of HIV cases here because Dharmapuri is on the national highway. There are lots of truckers here as most of the transportation is via trucks that move freight from Dharmapuri all the way to Bombay.
Sometimes when they leave home, they stay anywhere between 25 days up to 2 months. And there they get used to wrong habits and it affects families.
There are also a lot of commercial sex workers here. These workers have a high incidence of HIV which continues the spread of the disease. The epidemic is mostly among the heterosexual population, accounting for 85% of cases, and more than half of those suffering are monogamous members of the general population that have no high-risk behaviors.
We should not have sex with anyone else except with the spouse. I'm not saying one should not have sex at all.
For the most part, people do not have a standard source of income. They suffer from drought conditions here, and there is not much agricultural land and production. Frequently, the husbands will go in search of work and be gone for long periods of time. While away from home, they find new ways to satisfy their desires. The men bring HIV back from the cities and then give it to their wives, and it goes on and on and on. The sexual promiscuity among both the youth and even the married population is a major cause for the spread of the disease.
It has moved from the high-risk population into the general population. So a lot of the general population, public, people, innocent women are infected with the disease.
But children born in the last 10 years are infected and many have already died. If we consider the women who come to the main hospital in Dharmapuri district, the incidence is 2 to 3% or 5 times the national average. Meenakshi is a very interesting patient. She's only 24 years old, but her husband died of HIV 6 months ago. She herself has HIV, but her daughter is negative, so she has something to live for. She's still in the early stages, so if she maintains her health and stays on medication, she can live a long, productive life. She comes from a good family, but her parents are elderly, so she will need to work hard to bring up her child, but she can give her a future. Meenakshi is always sad. She has not been able to overcome her grief. So we must treat not only the physical ailments of the disease, but we must also constantly treat the psychological and spiritual aspects as well. Ashok has never been married and he lives with his mother. He was a truck driver and used to have premarital sex, but he says he has given up all those habits. Lakshmi is a commercial sex worker but has given up her high-risk activities. She was married to a policeman a few years back. He died from HIV/AIDS. She has HIV but has been able to manage her family by operating a fruit shop at the bus stand. My son found out and he said, "Go buy some poison. We both will eat and die." And now he doesn't want to go to school anymore. These are just a couple stories of the many people that OM is walking with in their struggle with HIV/AIDS.
And now we have more than 100 contacts, the patients whom we know that. and around 40 to 50 they are coming our clinic getting the regular treatment.
OM's clinic is staffed by Christian doctors who provide medical needs required by the many patients. Medication is provided to those who would otherwise be without hope. But beyond all this, OM India brings the love of Christ and the message of forgiveness to the people who are suffering. Many of those who come are the innocent wives and children. They cannot understand why the sentence of death has come upon them, and it is for these people that the clinic has a larger vision of hope. God has provided property where the plan is to build a small hospital which can provide adequate care. We will also be able to provide a care home for the terminally ill and a home for AIDS orphans. OM Clinic runs on the love of Christ that flows from the heart of those that care. Doctors and nurses volunteer. OM workers pray with and counsel patients. People pray for the clinic, and there are those that give medication and finances to meet the needs of operation. By the grace of God, OM India will continue to bring hope into the hearts and lives of these people who are suffering. It is the love of God and the good news of Jesus Christ which brings hope into their hearts and a smile to their face.